So the Communist Party in Russia came to power in 1 year. It was a much longer struggle in China. The CCP, Chinese Communist Party, gained power over the entire country in 1949. So that's over 30 years after the Russian Revolution. So when I think 1949, I think, well, that's right after World War II. And really the two are closely connected. If World War I created Communist Russia, then World War II created Communist China. In China, the CCP didn't come to power in 1 year. It was a long, hard struggle. The Qing dynasty, the final of these Chinese dynasties that we've been looking at all year, falls apart in 1911. And at this time, the ideas of Karl Marx are totally foreign to China. Chinese people don't know anything about Marxist economic theory. When the Chinese Communist Party is founded in 1921, its goal was to organize the urban working class. And in China, which wasn't an industrialized nation, almost everybody was a farmer. So the Communist Party started modestly, only 60 members. But over time they would grow, communist ideas would catch on, they'd find their charismatic leader in Mao Zedong, and is really an unlikely twist in world history. Really underdogs in world history. They fight off the much more powerful Japanese and Chinese nationalists, and for everything terrible that the Communist Party did in China, they were up against people that were doing terrible things to them as well. And the way they fought to rise to power was actually quite heroic. And the rise of the Chinese communists is a lot more surprising than their Russian counterparts because they were facing stronger opponents, specifically the Chinese Nationalist Party, or the Kuomintang, and the Japanese. The Kuomintang ruled over China after the fall of the Qing, and in 1927 they cracked down on the CCP and chased them out of their cities. Their leader was a military officer named Chiang Kai-shek. Chiang promoted some measures of development, but he focused more on the cities. Most of the improvements that China felt during his rule were felt by people living in the city. Chinese people lived in the countryside, outside of cities, and the Chinese communists turned to peasants for support. So, communism is really specifically about industrial nations, but this didn't exist in China, so just like Lenin in Russia, Chinese communists adapted the ideas of communism to their own local circumstances. They adapted the principles of collectivism and equality to a farming economy, and they slowly gained the respect of the peasants. And it's through their interactions with peasants that they would find their leader that would go on to lead them to victory. Mao Zedong was a son of a prosperous peasant family in China. So the communists are in the countryside, the nationalists are in the cities. The nationalist army, the Kuomintang army, is much bigger than the communist army, the CCP army. We're moving forward to the 1930s. Remember from last week's podcast, Japan has the bright idea to invade China, and the Japanese take control of a lot of the country. They take control away from the Kuomintang. And as the Kuomintang retreated, and in the face of Japanese aggression, peasants in the countryside rushed to join the CCP, who had been living alongside the peasants in the countryside. And the CCP fought the Japanese vigorously. They used new war tactics, what's known as guerrilla warfare, where they would establish themselves behind enemy lines and launch surprise attacks. They would attack, then retreat. And the Kuomintang wasn't engaging the Japanese military, they were just retreating. They seemed more concerned with fighting the communists. And as the Kuomintang retreated, the CCP took control of sizable parts of the country, and they genuinely made life better for people living in these parts of the country. They brought reforms that made life better for the peasants. They lowered taxes, they promoted literacy in the countryside, they promoted women's rights, and made women an important part of the struggle. In the eyes of the Chinese masses, the CCP represented a solution to two of China's biggest problems. One was the exploitation of peasants by landlords. This is something that's been happening in China for a long time and has led to rebellions and regime change, dynasty change in the past. Communism addressed this problem. The other was fighting against foreign imperialism. So, since the Opium War loss against the British, China was being picked apart by foreign countries, and the CCP wasn't standing for it. They were fighting the Japanese head on, suffering huge casualties, but putting up a good fight. So, the CCP gained a reputation for being honest rulers, a reputation the Kuomintang didn't have. And despite being conceived as a small party in the cities aimed at organizing small numbers of urban workers, they became the party of the peasants. And in China, the peasants are the people. So, through the struggle against the Japanese, the communists gained support of the peasants. And 4 years after World War II, or after the end of World War II, a civil war waged for power over China between the communists and the Kuomintang, with the communists coming out on top. So in 1949, the Chinese communists declare the establishment of the People's Republic of China, and the Kuomintang flee to Taiwan, where they proclaim the Republic of China.